Hello, I am Aviva reporting live in Jerusalem from room 552 for Israel 24/6 TV. Today is the 17th of July 2008, and on the Hebrew calendar today is the 14th of Tammuz 5768. And surely today is a day which will be remembered by all Jews everywhere forever. Today, Israel has buried 2 of its fallen soldiers, returned home yesterday to holy soil through a United Nations brokered prisoner exchange deal. Almost everyone here in Israel who is in politics has weighed in with their own remarks concerning yesterday's exchange. The foreign press also yesterday received the text of the comments made by President Shimon Peres, and as president, the individual who authorized the pardoning of that murdering Arab terrorist known as Samir Kuntar and the other Arab terrorists which walked to freedom yesterday into the jubilant atmosphere created by other Arab terrorists waiting for them at the Israel-Lebanon border. Following is the full text of those remarks, and I quote, "Lebanon will yet be ashamed, a shame which will be necessary for it to exist properly. We will bow our heads in memory of the valiant who fell, and we will maintain our uprightness in accordance with that of a nation which has morality as its guiding principle." End quote. The communique from the President's office also affirmed that Mr. Peres attended a memorial ceremony for our fallen soldiers, Goldwasser and Regev. Later, in his address to the nation of Israel, Mr. Peres stated, and I quote, "I am following the events on both sides. Lebanon celebrates a victory. Heads of state and the leadership of Hezbollah are welcoming the return of Samir Kuntar, a murderer who smashed the skull of a 4-year-old girl, a knot, with his bare hands and the butt of his rifle, and then shot her father in cold blood, and never expressed regret. In Israel, a whole nation is in tears, a nation that becomes a family, Goldwasser and Regev. Israel paid a high price to bring back 2 fallen soldiers, Udi and Eldad. We wanted these brothers in arms to rest at home with us, embraced by an entire nation. Ostensibly, the media shows where agony and happiness lie. Where does the moral call reside? With those who welcome a terrible murderer? With the nation lighting memorial candles for 2 of its bravest soldiers who fell defending their home? The answer is clear. Justice stands on the side of Israel. Justice is the true form of human triumph." End quote. As to justice, may I please remind Mr. Peres and those who advised him to pardon the convicted murderer Arab terrorist Samir Kuntar that justice is weighed in a balance. Yesterday, the scales of justice fell short, and it verily cried at the lack of balance, an imbalance that was fomented by President Shimon Peres himself when he signed the documents pardoning an Arab terrorist who was guilty of murder and exchanging that terrorist for 2 coffins without demanding that the living be part of any prisoner exchange. Who would have felt that Shimon Peres was unqualified to be president here if he had been steadfast in the demand that a living Gilad Shalit be part of the exchange? Who would have not appreciated President Peres more if he had simply said, "Israel will only exchange the dead for the dead and the living for the living"? I can think of only one answer. Surely only the enemies of the sovereign state of Israel would have resented our president if he had been stalwart and firm and said simply, "No pardon for any Arab terrorist convicted of murdering Jews unless we receive the living for the living." I mourn today. I have been mourning for months. Rest assured, that Gilad Shalit mourned yesterday also. For on the basis of the belief that Corporal Shalit is still alive, surely his captors showed him the television coverage of the exchange. I do not wonder what Gilad Shalit must have thought yesterday when he saw that television coverage of 2 coffins being exchanged for a murderer, an Arab terrorist who was living and breathing. To Mr. Peres, I say the following. Rest assured, Mr. Peres, if Gilad Shalit is still alive, and we all hope that he is, rest assured that his captors used the folly of your pen and the folly of those governing the sovereign state of Israel in exchanging our 2 dead Israeli soldiers for living, breathing, unrepentant Arab terrorists, to undermine his morale, to tell him that he is forgotten, to cause him to feel bitter about having ever been a soldier for the sovereign state of Israel, and to force him to consider capitulating to Arab tactics. Therefore, Mr. President, I mourn not only for our fallen soldiers, Regeb and Goldwasser, may they rest in peace, I mourn also for the living. I am absolutely heartbroken for Gilad Shalit and his family. And that concludes this edition of Fact Not Commentary. I would like to thank Media Central for the impromptu use of their offices to facilitate the production of this webcast. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live in Jerusalem from room 552 for Israel 24/6 TV. May the Almighty help this present inhabited world, beginning at the houses and offices of those who govern the sovereign state of Israel.